Captain Marcus Webb stood at the bridge of the starship Endeavour, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the view screen. After 3 months of traveling through space, humanity was finally about to meet the rulers of the galaxy. The Galactic Confederacy had controlled 12 star systems for thousands of years, and now they wanted to meet the newcomers from Earth. Marcus felt excited but nervous. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, and this was their first real contact with alien civilizations. The United Earth Council had chosen him to lead this diplomatic mission because of his experience in peaceful negotiations. They hoped to join the galactic community and share knowledge with other intelligent species. The space station called Korath Prime was enormous, easily 100 times larger than any human-built structure. Ships of strange designs moved around. It like busy insects, and the technology looked far more advanced than anything Earth had ever created. Marcus could see his crew members staring in wonder at the alien vessels, their hulls gleaming with materials that seemed to bend light itself. As the Endeavour docked with the station, Marcus adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform one last time. Behind him stood his team of Earth's best negotiators, scientists, and cultural experts. They carried gifts from Earth and detailed information about human civilization, hoping to make a good first impression. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of some crystalline material that pulsed with soft blue light. Strange symbols covered every surface, and the air smelled of ozone and something else Marcus could not identify. Their escort was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms. It introduced itself as a Nexari guide but did not give its name. The creature's voice sounded like wind chimes, and it spoke in perfect English through a translation device attached to its chest. "Follow me to the council chamber," the guide said, its tone completely neutral. "Do not touch anything, do not speak unless spoken to, and do not make any sudden movements." Marcus felt his first hint of unease. The instructions sounded more like warnings given to prisoners than guests. But he followed the guide through the winding corridors, past windows that showed the vastness of space and the busy traffic of alien ships. The council chamber was a massive circular room with a domed ceiling that showed a perfect view of the stars. 12 different seats were arranged in a circle, each designed for a different alien species. As Marcus and his team entered, he saw that 11 of the seats were occupied by beings unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The largest figure was clearly reptilian, with scales that looked like polished metal and eyes that glowed with an inner fire. This was Prime Minister Veltar of the Korthik people, the apparent leader of the Confederacy. To his right sat a being that looked like living crystal, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. This was Chancellor Prisendal of the Nexari. Other council members included a creature that looked like a giant insect with multiple heads, a being made of what appeared to be living metal, and several others that defied easy description. All of them looked at the humans with expressions that ranged from boredom to barely concealed disgust. "So these are the humans," Prime Minister Veltar said, his voice deep and rumbling. "The ones who think they deserve a place in our confederacy." Marcus stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Honored council members, I am Captain Marcus Webb of the United Earth. We come in peace, hoping to establish friendly relations and perhaps join your great alliance." The reptilian leader's laugh was like the sound of grinding stone. "Join us? You barely understand the basic principles of space travel. Your ships are crude metal boxes held together with primitive technology. Your weapons are laughably weak, and your civilization is still divided into competing nations." Chancellor Prisnadal's crystalline form chimed with what sounded like amusement. "We have observed your species for some time, humans. You are violent, destructive, and completely unpredictable. Your history is nothing but endless warfare, environmental destruction, and social chaos." The insect-like being introduced as Hive Speaker Zach clicked its mandibles together. "They are barely evolved apes who have somehow stumbled into space. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours, their military is a joke, and their culture is primitive beyond measure. Marcus felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice calm and diplomatic. We acknowledge that we are newcomers to galactic civilization, but we bring unique perspectives and capabilities. Humanity has overcome many challenges and learned from our mistakes. We offer our knowledge of agriculture, medicine, and engineering in exchange for guidance and friendship. The laughter that erupted from the council was like a physical blow. Every alien species seemed to find the idea of humans offering anything valuable to be the funniest thing they had ever heard. Prime Minister Veltar wiped tears from his glowing eyes. You offer us agriculture? We have been growing food for millions of years. Medicine, our healing technology can regrow entire limbs. Engineering? Your best efforts are crude imitations of what we mastered before your species learned to use tools. Chancellor Prismados's form shifted colors rapidly, apparently a sign of extreme amusement. The arrogance of these creatures is astounding. They actually believe they have something to teach us. Marcus tried again. Perhaps we could start with limited cooperation, cultural exchange, or ... Enough, Prime Minister Veltar cut him off. We did not invite you here to negotiate as equals. We summoned you here to inform you of your new status in the galaxy. The reptilian leader gestured, and a holographic document appeared in the air before Marcus. The text was in English, but the terms made his blood run cold. This is the vassalage accord, Veltar continued. You will sign this document, acknowledging Earth as a tributary state under Confederacy protection. You will provide us with raw materials, agricultural products, and manual labor. In return, we will protect you from other hostile species and allow you to continue existing. Marcus scanned the document quickly. It was essentially a slavery contract for the entire human race. Earth would have no voice in galactic affairs, no right to trade with other species, and no control over its own resources. Humans would be second-class citizens in their own star system. This is unacceptable, Marcus said firmly. Humanity will not accept vassalage. We seek partnership, not servitude. The council erupted in fresh laughter. Hive speaker Zaka's multiple heads all clicked at once. Partnership? You think you can be partners with us? You are insects pretending to be equals to giants. Prime Minister Veltar's expression turned cold. You have 7 standard galactic days to return to your primitive world and convince your leaders to sign this accord. If you refuse, Earth will be declared a hostile territory and cut off from all galactic trade and technology. Your species will remain isolated in your tiny solar system until you learn proper respect. The meeting was clearly over. Guards appeared to escort the human delegation back to their ship, but Marcus had one more thing to say. You underestimate humanity at your own peril, he said quietly. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would destroy weaker species. We do not surrender easily. Prime Minister Veltar's laugh followed them out of the chamber. 7 days, human. 7 days to learn your place in the galaxy. As the Endeavor undocked from Korath Prime, Marcus stared at the alien Station 1. Last time, he had come here hoping to make friends and allies. Instead, he had discovered that the galaxy was ruled by arrogant bullies who saw humanity as nothing more than useful slaves. The journey back to Earth gave him time to think. The aliens had made a serious mistake in showing their true nature. So, openly, they had revealed their contempt for humanity and their willingness to use force to get what they wanted. Most importantly, they had underestimated the one thing that had always defined humanity, the refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. By the time the Endeavor reached Earth, Marcus had made his decision. The galaxy wanted to see what humans were really capable of. They were about to get their wish. The emergency session of the United Earth Council was unlike anything in human history. Representatives from every nation sat in the Great Assembly Hall in Geneva, their faces grim as Captain Marcus Webb finished his report. The translation of the vassalage accord projected on the main screen showed terms that would make humanity slaves to alien masters. President Maria Santos of the United Earth stood at the podium, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we face a choice that will define the future of our species. We can accept this so-called accord and become servants to alien overlords, or we can reject it and face the consequences. The Russian delegate raised his hand. What consequences are we talking about exactly? These aliens have technology thousands of years ahead of ours. How can we possibly resist them? General Harrison Burke, the head of Earth's Unified Military Command, stepped forward. Our intelligence suggests the Confederacy has over 1 million ships, energy weapons that can destroy entire cities, and defensive systems we barely understand. In a direct confrontation, we would be completely outmatched. A murmur of fear ran through the assembly. The Chinese representative spoke up. Then perhaps we should negotiate. Maybe we can find better terms. Captain Webb shook his head. There are no better terms. I saw their faces when they looked at us. They do not see us as intelligent beings worthy of respect. They see us as animals that have learned to use tools. This accord is not negotiation, it is conquest disguised as protection. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the building. The main screen switched to show Admiral Lisa Park speaking from the Lunar Defense Station. Her face was pale with shock. Mr. President, we have a massive alien fleet at the edge of the solar system. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The signal came through immediately. The face of Admiral Vekmore appeared on the screen, his species clearly built for war. The Brutheri were massive humanoid creatures with thick armored skin and glowing red eyes. His voice was like grinding metal. Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Vekmore of the Confederate Fleet. Your time for consideration has been shortened. You have witnessed our power. Now you will witness our patience running out. The screen switched to show the alien fleet. Hundreds of ships hung in space like dark threats, their hulls gleaming with unknown metals. Each ship was larger than Earth's. Big as space stations, and their weapons were already charging with ominous energy. We grow tired of waiting for primitive species to understand their place, Admiral Vekmore continued. To demonstrate our superiority and your weakness, we will now remove some of your pathetic outposts. The first strike hit the Mars mining station. The energy beam that lanced out from the alien flagship was visible even from Earth, a line of pure destruction that turned the station into expanding gas and debris. 50 human workers died in an instant, their final messages cut off in mid-transmission. The second strike destroyed the lunar research base. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been working on advanced propulsion systems there. With her team of 12 scientists, they had just enough time to send a desperate message before the alien weapon erased them from existence. The third strike was the worst. The asteroid mining platform called Haven Station housed 300 civilians, including families of the miners. The alien beam cut through the station's hull like it was made of paper, and the screams on the emergency channels lasted for several horrible seconds before going silent. Admiral Vekmore's face reappeared on the screen. This is what resistance brings you, humans. Your weapons cannot touch us, your defenses cannot stop us, and your technology cannot save you. You exist only because we allow it. The alien commander leaned forward, his red eyes glowing with cruel amusement. But we are not unreasonable. We will give you a demonstration of what cooperation can bring. We have captured some of your scientists from the asteroid belt. Watch carefully. The screen changed to show the interior of an alien ship. 5 human scientists knelt in a row, their hands bound behind their backs. Marcus recognized Dr. Robert Kim, the brilliant physicist who had helped develop humanity's first faster-than-light drive. Next to him was Dr. Susan Wright, the xenobiologist who had been so excited about the possibility of meeting alien life. These humans claim to be scientists, Admiral Vekmore's voice continued. They begged us to spare them, promising to share their primitive knowledge with us. They offered to help us understand human technology and culture. The alien guards standing behind the prisoners were clearly enjoying themselves. They poked and prodded the humans like zoo animals, making comments in their own language that the translation devices did not bother to interpret. Let me show you what we think of human knowledge, Admiral Vecmore said, What happened next was broadcast live across the galaxy. The alien guards began torturing the human scientists, not for information but for entertainment. They used energy, weapons to cause pain without immediately killing, laughing as the humans screamed and begged for mercy. Dr. Kim tried to maintain his dignity, offering to help the aliens understand human psychology and technology. His reward was prolonged agony as the guards took turns, experimenting with different settings on their weapons. Dr. Wright pleaded for the lives of her colleagues, offering to do anything the aliens wanted. They responded by forcing her to watch. As they killed the others one by one, saving her for last. The torture went on for over an hour. The aliens broadcasted on every human communication channel, making sure that everyone on Earth could see what happened to those who tried to reason with the Confederacy. When it was finally over, Admiral Vecmore reappeared on the screen. This is what we think of human science, human culture, and human dignity. You are nothing but entertainment for us. Your pain amuses us, your fear feeds us, and your death means nothing to us. The alien commander's expression grew even more cruel. But we are generous, masters. Sign the accord, and we will kill only those who resist. Refuse, and we will make what you just witnessed look like mercy. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The representatives stared at the blank screen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The casual cruelty of the aliens was beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. President Santos was the first to recover. General Burke, what is the status of our defenses? The general's face was like stone. We have perhaps 1,000 combat-capable ships, mostly converted cargo vessels with basic weapons. Our most advanced weapons are nuclear missiles, which their shields can probably stop easily. In a direct fight, we would last maybe an hour. The British representative stood up, his voice shaking with rage. Then we have no choice. We must sign the accord and hope we can find a way to resist later. No, said Dr. Timothy Chun, Earth's leading expert on alien technology. There is another option. We can make them regret ever coming to our system. Everyone turned to look at the elderly scientist. He had been studying the recorded alien transmissions since the first contact, analyzing every detail of their technology and behavior. They have one crucial weakness, Dr. Chun continued. They are completely arrogant. They cannot conceive of primitive humans posing any real threat to them. This gives us opportunities they will never see coming. President Santos leaned forward. What do you mean? They have been using the same technology and tactics for thousands of years. They have grown comfortable, predictable. But humans are adaptable. We learn fast, we improvise, and we never fight fair when our survival is at stake. General Burke nodded slowly. A guerrilla war, hit-and-run tactics? Make them pay for every inch of space they take, Dr. Chun smiled grimly. More than that, they have shown us their technology, their weapons, their weaknesses. They think we are too primitive to understand what we are seeing. They are wrong. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some representatives argued for surrender, others for hopeless resistance, but slowly a consensus began to emerge. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had shown humanity their true nature, and in doing so, they had united the human race in a way that nothing else ever could. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not sign the vassalage accord. Instead, they would show the galaxy what happened when you underestimated humanity. President Santos addressed the world that night. Citizens of Earth, we have been given a choice between slavery and death. We choose neither. We choose to fight for our freedom, our dignity, and our right to exist as equals in this galaxy. The next morning, every factory on Earth began retooling for war production. Every scientist began working on ways to counter alien technology. Every soldier began training for a war unlike any in human history. Admiral Vecmore had wanted to show humanity what happened to those who resisted the Confederacy. Instead, he had shown them what they were truly fighting against. The aliens had awakened something in humanity that they did not understand. They had seen human fear, human pain, and human death. But they had never seen human rage. They were about to learn the difference. 3 months had passed since Admiral Thekmar's brutal demonstration, and Earth had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Every major city hummed with activity as factories that once produced cars and electronics now churned out weapons and spacecraft. The entire planet had become a single war machine focused on one goal: survival. Dr. Timothy Chun stood in his laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that had been recovered from the destroyed outposts. His team of brilliant scientists worked around the clock, taking apart Confederate devices and learning how they functioned. What they discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. "The aliens have incredible technology," Dr. Chun explained to the gathered military leaders. "Their energy weapons can destroy our ships in seconds. Their shields can stop our strongest missiles, and their faster-than-light drives are far superior to ours." General Harrisonburg frowned. "That does not sound encouraging, Doctor." "Doctor?" Chun smiled grimly. "The encouraging part is that they have stopped innovating. These weapons are thousands of years old, designed by species that have been extinct for centuries. The Confederate races have been using the same technology for so long that they have forgotten how to improve it." He activated a holographic display showing the inner workings of an alien energy weapon. "Look at this power coupling. It is designed to work with only one specific type of energy crystal. If you damage that crystal, the entire weapon becomes useless." Commander Lisa Park, who had been promoted after her heroic defense of the lunar station, studied the display carefully. "Are you saying we can sabotage their weapons?" "Better than that," Dr. Chun replied. "We can build better weapons. Human engineering has always been about making things cheaper, faster, and more efficient. These alien weapons are powerful, but inefficient. They waste enormous amounts of energy and require constant maintenance." The demonstration that followed changed everything. Dr. Chun's team had taken human laser technology and combined it with alien energy crystals, creating weapons that were not only more powerful than the originals, but also more reliable and easier to produce. "We can build 10 of these for every one alien weapon," Dr. Chun announced, "and ours work better." Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, Commander Tom Bradley was studying something even more valuable: Confederate communications and strategic doctrine. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they had never bothered to encrypt their transmissions properly. "They have been using the same battle tactics for over 1,000 years, Bradley explained to his intelligence team. "Every engagement follows the same pattern: overwhelming force applied in predictable formations. They have never faced an enemy that could adapt faster than they could respond." His analysis revealed something that made Earth's leaders realize they had a real chance at victory. The Confederate military was designed to crush primitive species that fought in traditional ways. They had never encountered guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, or adaptive tactics. "They are like a giant hammer," Bradley continued. "Very good at smashing things, but completely useless against an enemy that refuses to stand still and be hit." The breakthrough came when Dr. Chun's team successfully reverse-engineered alien faster-than-light communication technology. Suddenly, Earth could coordinate military operations across the entire solar system in real time. More importantly, they could intercept and decode Confederate transmissions. What they learned made everyone realized that the stakes were even higher than they had imagined. The aliens were not just planning to enslave humanity. They were planning to harvest human organs for their black market, use human women as breeding stock for genetic experiments, and turn Earth into a strip mining operation. The intercepted communications revealed the true nature of the Galactic Confederacy. They had been doing this for millennia, finding primitive species and either destroying them completely or enslaving them for resources. Hundreds of intelligent species had been wiped out or enslaved by the same aliens who now threatened Earth. President Maria Santos called another emergency session of the United Earth Council. This time the mood was different. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with cold determination and righteous anger. We are not just fighting for our freedom, Santos announced. We are fighting for every species that has been crushed under Confederate rule. We are fighting for every civilization that was destroyed because they could not defend themselves. The plan that emerged was unlike anything in military history. Earth would not wait for the aliens to attack. Instead, they would take the fight to the enemy using tactics that the Confederacy had never encountered. General Burke outlined the strategy. We will use our new faster-than-light ships to establish hidden bases throughout Confederate space. These bases will launch coordinated attacks on their supply lines, communication networks, and isolated outposts. Commander Bradley added his part. At the same time, we will begin broadcasting the truth about the Confederacy to every enslaved species in the galaxy. We will show them that resistance is possible and provide them with the tools to fight back. The most audacious part of the plan came from Dr. Chun. We will infiltrate their command structure using captured technology and human agents. The aliens are so arrogant that they cannot imagine humans being smart enough to fool them. The first phase of the operation began immediately. Human ships disguised as Confederate vessels began appearing throughout alien space. The disguises were perfect because they were based on actual Confederate technology, modified with human improvements. These ships carried special cargo, communication devices that could broadcast on frequencies the aliens thought were secure, weapons that could penetrate Confederate shields, and most importantly, human agents trained to blend in with alien populations. The agents were volunteers from every nation on Earth, trained in alien languages and customs. They carried advanced technology that looked primitive to alien eyes but was actually superior to anything the Confederacy had ever produced. Agent Maria Gonzalez was one of the first to reach a Confederate world. Disguised as a refugee from a destroyed species, she made contact with enslaved aliens on the mining world of Kepler-7. What she found there was worse than anything Earth had imagined. The miners were a species called the Villani, humanoid creatures with blue skin and large eyes. They had been enslaved for 300 years after their homeworld was destroyed for resisting Confederate rule. Now they worked 16-hour shifts in dangerous mines, dying young from exposure to toxic minerals. We remember when we were free, the Villani leader told Maria in secret, but we are few and they are many. We have no weapons, no ships, and no hope. Maria smiled and activated a hidden device. You have something better than hope now. You have friends. The device projected a holographic message from President Santos, translated into the Villani language. People of Kepler-7, you are not alone. Earth stands with you in your fight for freedom. We offer you weapons, ships, and most importantly, proof that the Confederacy can be defeated. The message included detailed plans for an uprising, along with the locations of hidden weapon caches that had been secretly placed by human agents. More importantly, it included real-time intelligence about Confederate troop movements and weak points in their defenses. Similar messages were being delivered to enslaved species on dozens of worlds. The Confederacy's own communication networks were being used against them, carrying calls for rebellion to every corner of their empire. Admiral Thekmore received the first reports of the uprisings 3 weeks after they began. His reaction was exactly what human analysts had predicted: confused anger and increased brutality. Impossible, he snarled at his staff. These primitive species cannot organize resistance without outside help. Find out who is behind this and crush them. But the uprisings were spreading faster than the Confederate military could respond. On Kepler-7, the Villani had seized control of the mining equipment and turned it into weapons. On Rigel Prime, the enslaved Aquarians had taken over the orbital shipyards. On dozens of other worlds, species that had been oppressed for centuries were finally fighting back. The aliens were learning something that humanity had always known: an oppressed people with nothing left to lose were the most dangerous enemy. Of all, back on Earth, the news of the successful uprisings was celebrated, but the real work was just beginning. The Confederate fleet was still intact, Admiral Thekmore was still alive, and the full power of the Galactic Empire had not yet been brought to bear. General Burke stood before a map of Confederate space, now dotted with red markers showing worlds. "In rebellion, this is just the beginning," he told his staff. "We have lit the fuse, but the real explosion is yet to come." Commander Bradley nodded grimly. "The aliens are about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. They think we are primitive because we are young. They are about to discover that being young means being adaptable, innovative, and willing to fight dirty." Dr. Chen put down his latest analysis of Confederate technology. "They have ruled through fear for thousands of years. They have never encountered an enemy that could turn their own weapons against them, use their own networks to spread rebellion, and fight back with tactics they cannot understand." The transformation of Earth was complete. The planet that had been dismissed as primitive was now the center of a galactic revolution. The species that had been mocked as barely evolved apes were now teaching the galaxy what real intelligence looked like. The aliens had wanted to show humanity its place in the galactic order. Instead, they had awakened something that would remake that order entirely. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous enemy was not the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. The most dangerous enemy was the one that refused to give up, refused to surrender, and refused to accept that might made right. Humanity was ready for war. The first battle of the Human-Confederate War began not with massive fleets clashing in space, but with a simple merchant vessel approaching the Confederate border station at Proxima Gate. The ship appeared to be a standard Korthak freighter carrying mining equipment to the outer colonies. Admiral Theckemer watched the approaching vessel from his flagship, the Devastator. His massive Confederate fleet had been stationed at Proxima Gate for weeks, waiting for the humans to make their predicted desperate attack on Earth's behalf. The alien commander was confident that when the primitive humans finally worked up the courage to fight, they would be easily crushed. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we are detecting some unusual energy readings from that freighter, but they match no known human technology." Theckemer barely glanced at the display. "Probably just outdated Korthak equipment." "Let it dock and unload its cargo. We have more important things to worry about than merchant ships." The freighter docked normally, and its crew began unloading what appeared to be standard mining equipment. The Confederate guards inspected the cargo with their usual arrogance, never noticing that the mining equipment was actually advanced human weapons disguised to look like alien technology. At exactly 0800 hours Galactic Standard Time, the trap was sprung. The mining equipment suddenly transformed into weapon emplacements, and the freighter's crew threw off their alien disguises to reveal human combat armor beneath. Captain Marcus Webb, now commanding the covert operation, gave the signal. "All units, this is Eagle 1, light them up." The Confederate guards never had a chance to react. The human weapons were not only more powerful than anything the aliens had ever encountered, but they were also completely silent. The guards simply collapsed, their nervous systems overloaded by weapons that attacked their biological functions directly within minutes. The humans had taken control of the entire station. More importantly, they had access to the Confederate command and communication networks. Commander Tom Bradley, who had been disguised as a Korthak engineer, immediately began uploading a virus that would spread throughout the alien computer. "Systems, upload complete," Bradley reported. "The virus will activate when they try to coordinate their fleet movements. Their own communication network will become our weapon." But the real surprise was yet to come. As Admiral Theckemer prepared to launch his attack on what he thought was a small group of human infiltrators, space around Proxima Gate suddenly filled with ships. Not alien ships, but human vessels that had been hiding throughout the system. Using advanced stealth technology, the human fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ships were smaller than Confederate vessels, but far more maneuverable. They moved in perfect coordination, their formations shifting and adapting faster than the alien targeting systems could track. "Impossible," Admiral Theckemer snarled. "Where did these ships come from? How did they get past our sensors?" His tactical officer checked the readings frantically. "Sir, These are not the same ships we observed at Earth. These vessels are using technology that does not match any known human capabilities. The truth was that Earth's industrial capacity had been completely underestimated by the aliens. While the Confederacy had been preparing for a conventional invasion, humanity had been building a fleet designed specifically to counter Confederate tactics. The human ships were faster, more agile, and equipped with weapons that could penetrate Confederate shields. More importantly, they were commanded by officers who had studied every Confederate battle for months and knew exactly how the aliens would respond to any given situation. Admiral Thekmar ordered his fleet to attack in the traditional Confederate formation, a massive wall of ships advancing at maximum firepower. It was a tactic that had crushed countless primitive species over the centuries. Commander Lisa Park, now Admiral Park and leader of the human fleet, watched the alien formation with grim satisfaction. They are doing exactly what we predicted. All ships execute Plan Delta. The human fleet suddenly scattered in all directions, breaking into small groups that moved independently. The Confederate weapons, designed to target large formations, had difficulty tracking the rapidly moving human ships. Instead of fighting a traditional space battle, the humans began executing hit-and-run attacks on the alien fleet. Small groups of human ships would appear from unexpected directions, strike at vulnerable points on the Confederate vessels, then disappear before the aliens could respond. "What are they doing?" Admiral Thekmar demanded. "This is not how space battles are fought. They are running away like cowards." But the human tactics were devastatingly effective. The alien ships, designed to fight in formation, were helpless against an enemy that refused to stay in one place. The Confederate vessels began taking damage from attacks that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The turning point came when Bradley's virus activated. As the Confederate ships tried to coordinate their response to the human attacks, their own communication systems began feeding them false information. Ships received orders to fire on their own allies' navigation systems. Directed vessels into collision courses, and targeting computers began malfunctioning. "Sir, we are losing ships faster than we can count," the tactical officer reported. "Our communication network has been compromised. We cannot coordinate our fleet movements." Admiral Thekmar's face turned dark with rage. "Then we will crush them with brute force. All ships, full power to weapons. Destroy everything that moves." But the human fleet was already moving to the next phase of their plan. Instead of engaging the Confederate fleet directly, they began targeting the support vessels that kept the alien war machine running. Fuel ships, repair vessels, and supply transports were systematically destroyed before they could escape. The aliens found themselves in a situation they had never encountered before. Their enemies were not fighting to control territory or destroy their fleet. Instead, the humans were fighting to cripple the Confederate ability to wage war. The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Confederate fleet, designed to overwhelm primitive opponents with superior firepower, was completely unprepared for an enemy that used intelligence instead of brute force. When the fighting finally ended, Admiral Thekmar found himself commanding less than half of his original fleet. The humans had lost only a dozen ships, and even those had been evacuated before they were destroyed. But the real shock came when Captain Webb opened a communication channel to the Confederate flagship. "Admiral Thekmar, this is Captain Webb of the Earth Fleet. I believe you wanted to demonstrate Confederate superiority." The alien commander's voice was filled with disbelief. "This is impossible. You are a primitive species. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours." Webb's response was calm and measured. "You are right about one thing, Admiral. We are a young species, but that is our greatest strength. We learn faster, adapt quicker, and fight harder than any species in the galaxy." The communication screen showed the interior of the human command ship, instead of the crude metal boxes the aliens had expected. They saw technology that was clearly superior to anything the Confederacy possessed. "Your mistake was assuming that primitive meant weak," Webb continued. "You have been using the same tactics and technology for thousands of years. We have been improving ours for months. You are fighting the last war, while we are fighting the next one. Admiral Vekmer's rage was replaced by something the Confederate military had never experienced: fear. What do you want, human? Webb's smile was cold. We want you to deliver a message to your council. Tell them that Earth does not accept the vassalage accord. Tell them that humanity will not bow to galactic bullies, and tell them that this is just the beginning. The screen changed to show images from across Confederate space. On world after world, enslaved species were rising up against their oppressors. The weapons and communication devices that human agents had secretly distributed were proving devastatingly effective against Confederate forces. Your empire is crumbling, Admiral, Webb continued. Every species you have enslaved is learning that resistance is possible. Every world you have conquered is remembering what freedom means. You awaken something in humanity that we are now sharing with the galaxy. The images showed Villani miners on Kepler-7 using captured Confederate weapons to destroy their former prison camps. Aquarian rebels on Rigel Prime had seized control of the Orgel shipyards and were building ships for their liberation fleet. On dozens of other worlds, the story was the same. Enslaved species were throwing off their chains and fighting back. This is your doing, Admiral Vekmer accused. You have violated every law of galactic civilization by interfering in Confederate internal affairs. Webb's laugh was harsh. Galactic civilization? You mean the system where the strong prey on the weak? Where intelligent species are enslaved or destroyed for the crime of being less advanced? That is not civilization, Admiral. That is barbarism. The human captain leaned forward. But we are not barbarians. We could destroy your fleet right now, but we will not. We could hunt down every Confederate ship in the galaxy, but we will not. We are offering you something your species has never offered its enemies: the chance to surrender with honor. Admiral. Vekmer's officers looked at each other in confusion. The concept of mercy from a victorious enemy was completely foreign to Confederate military doctrine. What are your terms? The alien commander asked reluctantly. Webb's expression grew serious. Complete withdrawal from all enslaved worlds, reparations to every species you have oppressed, and most importantly, an end to the Galactic Confederacy as it exists today. The alien admiral's face twisted with rage. You expect us to surrender our entire empire to primitive humans? Never. Then you will lose it anyway, Webb replied calmly. Your choice, Admiral. Surrender now with some dignity intact, or watch your empire collapse around you as every enslaved species in the galaxy rises up. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Vekmer staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders that never came. The Confederate commander had built his entire career on the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming force were enough to crush any enemy. Now he faced an enemy that was technologically superior, tactically brilliant, and morally justified. For the first time in his life, Admiral Vekmer understood what it meant to be truly outmatched. The Confederate fleet began its retreat from Proxima Gate, but the damage was already done. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than the aliens could suppress it. Every enslaved species learned that the mighty Confederacy could be defeated, and more importantly, that humanity was willing to help them fight for their freedom. On Earth, the news of the victory was celebrated with a mixture of joy and grim determination. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Confederate Council would not surrender easily, and they still controlled vast military resources. General Burke addressed the planet from the Military Command Center. Today we proved that humanity cannot be intimidated or enslaved, but this is only the beginning. The aliens will regroup, they will adapt, and they will return with everything they have. President Santos spoke next. The galaxy is watching us now. Every enslaved species, every conquered world, every oppressed people is looking to Earth for leadership. We cannot let them down. Dr. Chun provided the technical analysis. The aliens will modify their tactics based on what they learned today. They will develop countermeasures to our weapons and try to exploit our weaknesses. But they still have one fatal flaw: they cannot conceive of defeat. The captured Confederate communications were revealing more about the true nature of the Galactic Empire. The Confederacy had been built on the systematic destruction of hundreds of intelligent species. Entire civilizations had been wiped out simply because they had resources the aliens wanted. The intercepted messages from the Confederate Council showed their true feelings about the human victory. They were not concerned about the morality of enslaving other species or the justice of humanity's cause. They were only angry that their authority had been challenged. "The humans must be made an example of," Prime Minister Veltar declared in a secret council session. "If word spreads that the Confederacy can be defeated, our entire empire will collapse." Chancellor Prismdahl agreed. "We must mobilize every ship, every weapon, every resource. The human species must be completely exterminated as a warning to others." But the Confederate leaders had made the same mistake as Admiral Vekmer. They were still thinking in terms of overwhelming force and traditional warfare. They could not understand that humanity had already changed the nature of the conflict. The war was no longer about Earth versus the Confederacy. It was about freedom versus oppression, justice versus tyranny, and the future versus the past. Every enslaved species in the galaxy had become potential allies of humanity, and every Confederate world had become a potential battleground. Commander Bradley, now coordinating intelligence operations across the galaxy, reported to the Earth Council on the situation. "The uprisings are spreading faster than we anticipated. 67 worlds are now in open rebellion, and more are joining every day." The intelligence reports painted a picture of a galactic empire in chaos. Confederate forces were being spread thin, trying to suppress rebellions on dozens of worlds. Their supply lines were under constant attack, their communication networks were compromised, and their military was being forced to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Admiral Park, fresh from her victory at Proxima Gate, was already planning the next phase of the war. "The aliens will try to strike at Earth directly. They think that if they can destroy our homeworld, the rebellions will collapse without human support. Let them come," General Burke replied. "Earth is ready for them. And when they arrive, they will find that we have prepared a reception they will never forget." The galaxy held its breath as two completely different philosophies of civilization prepared for their final confrontation. On one side stood the Galactic Confederacy, an empire built on the belief that might made right and that superior technology justified any action. On the other side stood humanity and its growing alliance of liberated species, fighting for the radical idea that all intelligent life deserved freedom and dignity. The next battle would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The final battle for Earth began 6 months after the Confederate defeat at Proxima Gate. The alien armada that approached the solar system was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Prime Minister Veltar had stripped every Confederate world of its defenses, gathering over 10,000 ships from across the Empire. "Today we end the human plague once and for all," Veltar declared from his flagship, the Annihilator. "When we are finished, no species will ever again dare to challenge Confederate authority." The alien fleet was a terrifying sight. Massive dreadnoughts bristled with weapons that could crack planets, while smaller vessels swarmed around them like deadly insects. The technology represented thousands of years of galactic warfare, refined and perfected through the conquest of hundreds of species. But as the Confederate armada entered the solar system, they discovered that Earth had not been idle. The planet they had dismissed as primitive was now the center of a defensive network that stretched across the entire system. Admiral Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, watching the alien fleet approach. Around her, representatives from dozens of liberated species worked alongside human officers. The bridge crew included Villani tactical officers, Aquarian engineers, and warriors from a dozen other species that had thrown off Confederate rule. "All stations report ready," Commander Tom Bradley announced. "The liberation fleets are in position." The human defense plan was unlike anything the Confederacy had ever encountered. Instead of meeting the alien fleet in traditional battle, Earth had prepared multiple layers of defense that would force the aliens to fight on humanity's terms. The first surprise came when the Confederate fleet reached the asteroid belt. What appeared to be ordinary space rocks suddenly came alive, revealing themselves as disguised human battle stations. The asteroids had been hollowed out and filled with weapons that fired simultaneously at the approaching alien ships. Impossible, Prime Minister Veltar snarled. How did they build so many hidden bases without our knowledge? His intelligence officer checked the readings frantically. Sir, these installations are using technology that should not exist. The humans have somehow improved our own weapons beyond anything we thought possible. The truth was that humanity had done more than just reverse engineer Confederate technology. They had understood it, improved it, and combined it with human innovation to create weapons that were vastly superior to the originals. The asteroid battle stations were just the beginning. As the Confederate fleet pushed deeper into the solar system, they encountered minefields that used adaptive artificial intelligence to hunt their ships. The mines were small, fast, and programmed to target the weak points that Dr. Chun's team had identified in Confederate vessel designs. We are losing ships faster than we can count them, Admiral Deckmer reported from his battle cruiser. These humans fight like no species we have ever encountered. But the real shock came when the Confederate fleet finally reached Earth's orbital space. The planet they had expected to find cowering in fear was instead surrounded by a massive, defensive fleet that seemed to appear from nowhere. The ships were not just human vessels. The fleet included Villani cruisers, Aquarian destroyers, and warships from dozens of other species that had joined the Liberation Alliance. Each vessel had been upgraded with the best technology from multiple civilizations, creating a combined fleet that was more powerful than the sum of its parts. This is Admiral Park of the Earth Liberation Fleet, Lisa announced on all frequencies. Prime Minister Veltar, you are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and your ships will be allowed to return to Confederate space. The alien leader's laugh was filled with desperate fury. Outnumbered? We have 10,000 ships, human. You cannot possibly match our firepower. You are right, Park replied calmly. We cannot match your firepower, we exceed it. The battle that followed was the largest space engagement in galactic history. The Confederate fleet, fighting in traditional formations, found themselves facing an enemy that used tactics they had never encountered before. The Liberation Fleet split into dozens of smaller groups, each one targeting specific weaknesses in the Confederate formation. Human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to strike at vulnerable points, while their alien allies provided heavy firepower support. The key to the battle was coordination. Unlike the Confederate fleet, which relied on rigid command, structures, and predictable tactics, the Liberation Fleet used real-time adaptive strategies. Every ship captain was authorized to make tactical decisions based on immediate battlefield conditions. Captain Marcus Webb, now commanding the heavy cruiser Vengeance, led a squadron of mixed human and alien vessels in a devastating attack on the Confederate flagship. His formation included Villani fighters that could slip through enemy defenses, Aquarian bombers that could penetrate heavily armored targets, and human ships that provided tactical coordination. Target the Annihilator's main weapon systems, Webb ordered. All ships execute attack pattern Omega. The squadron moved with perfect precision, each vessel playing its part in a coordinated assault that overwhelmed the Confederate defenses. The alien flagship, designed to fight primitive opponents, was helpless against an attack that came from multiple directions simultaneously. Prime Minister Veltar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed by enemies he had dismissed as inferior. This cannot be happening. We are the master race. We have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. But the Confederate Empire was crumbling faster than its leaders could comprehend. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy as world after world declared independence from Confederate rule. The weapons and tactics that humanity had shared with enslaved species were proving devastatingly effective against their former masters. Sir, the communications officer reported, we are receiving surrender offers from 17 Confederate worlds. They are asking for protection from human forces. Veltar's rage turned to desperation. Then we will destroy everything. If we cannot rule the galaxy, no one will. The alien leader ordered his remaining ships to target Earth cities with planet-killing weapons. But the human defense network was ready for this final act of spite. Advanced shield generators based on captured Confederate technology, but improved, with human engineering, protected every major population center. The Confederate weapons that had destroyed countless worlds before were stopped cold by defenses that should not have existed. The aliens had underestimated humanity one final time, and it cost them everything. General Harrison Burke, coordinating the ground-based defenses, opened a channel to the Confederate flagship. Prime Minister Veltar, your empire is finished. Your fleets are destroyed, your worlds are in rebellion, and your people are asking for our protection. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you never showed others. The alien leader's response was to launch a final, desperate attack on Earth's surface. But the Confederate landing forces found themselves facing not just human defenders, but liberated aliens who had traveled across the galaxy to help protect the world that had given them hope. The battle for Earth's surface was over in hours. The Confederate forces, demoralized and outnumbered, surrendered without significant resistance. Prime Minister Veltar himself was captured when his personal shuttle was forced down by a squadron of Villani fighters. As the last Confederate ship either surrendered or fled, Admiral Park addressed the galaxy from Earth's orbital command center. People of the galaxy, the Confederate Empire is finished. The age of tyranny is over. Today we begin building a new galactic community based on freedom, equality, and cooperation. The response was overwhelming. Across the galaxy, enslaved species celebrated their liberation. Former Confederate worlds asked to join the new alliance. Even some of the Confederate species themselves, tired of their leaders' brutality, requested membership in the emerging Galactic Federation. The trials that followed were conducted with a fairness that amazed the galaxy. Human judges, working alongside representatives from liberated species, carefully examined the crimes of the Confederate leadership. Those who had committed atrocities were punished, but those who had simply followed orders were given the chance to make amends. Prime Minister Veltar, facing charges for the genocide of dozens of species, was defiant to the end. You think you have won, humans? You have only delayed the inevitable? The strong will always rule the weak? President Maria Santos, now serving as the first leader of the Galactic Federation, responded with quiet dignity. You are wrong, Veltar. The strong have a responsibility to protect the weak, not exploit them. That is what makes a civilization truly great. The new galactic government was established on principles that would have been impossible under Confederate rule. Every species, regardless of size or technological advancement, had an equal voice in galactic affairs. Trade was based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Scientific knowledge was shared freely for the benefit of all. Dr. Timothy Chun, now head of the Galactic Science Council, established research centers on dozens of worlds. The Academy's mission was to advance knowledge for the benefit of all species, not just the most powerful. We have learned that diversity is our greatest strength, he announced at the Academy's opening ceremony. Every species brings unique perspectives and capabilities. Together we can solve problems and achieve goals that no single species could accomplish alone. The transformation of the galaxy was remarkable. Worlds that had been strip-mined by Confederate forces were restored using advanced ecological technology. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were given the resources and support they needed to rebuild their civilizations. The former Confederate species were not excluded from this new order. Many of them, freed from their authoritarian leaders, proved to be valuable contributors to galactic civilization. Chancellor Prismdal of the Nexari became one of the most effective advocates for interspecies cooperation. We were taught that domination was the only path to security, Prismdal explained to the Federation Council. Humanity has shown us that cooperation is not only more moral but more effective. The galaxy that emerged from the war was unrecognizable from the one that had existed under Confederate rule. Trade flourished between species that had never been allowed to interact. Scientific advancement accelerated as researchers shared knowledge across species barriers. Art and culture blossomed as different civilizations learned from each other. But perhaps the most important change was in the galaxy's attitude toward conflict. The example set by humanity during the war had shown that it was possible to fight for justice without becoming the evil you opposed. The new Galactic Federation resolved disputes through negotiation and cooperation rather than conquest and domination. Captain Marcus Webb, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Federation, stood before the assembled delegates from hundreds of species. The chamber where he had once been mocked and dismissed was now filled with beings who regarded humanity as liberators and friends. 5 years ago, we came to this galaxy as strangers seeking friendship, Webb said. We were told that we were too primitive, too violent, and too weak to deserve a place among the stars. Today, we stand together as equals, united in our commitment to freedom and justice. The response was thunderous applause from beings who had once been slaves, now free to determine their own destiny. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from the ability to dominate others, but from the courage to stand up for what was right. The Confederate Empire had ruled through fear and oppression for thousands of years. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated a species that refused to accept that might made right. In awakening Earth's wrath, they had awakened something far more powerful than any weapon, the determination to build a better galaxy for all. The age of arrogance was over. The age of cooperation had begun.